Hello, welcome to today's episode of Managing Circumstances That You Do Not Like. We all find ourselves in an uncomfortable position at various junctures in our life where we have to face something or someone that we experience to be highly unpleasant. So today I invite our speaker, Sister Denise, to help us manage this situation and share with us skills so that we are able to function effectively in a situation that is actually or potentially very uncomfortable. Welcome, Sister Denise.
Thank you.
Okay, so how does one pull that off? What comes to mind is the individuals that I encounter in my line of work. I meet both men and women who live in domestic situations of great violence, physical violence, emotional violence, sexual violence. I encounter children who are treated abominably, not just by their parents, but by others, adults in their lives. I meet women who are destitute financially and who are trying desperately to get money from an absent father of a child, or it could be the other way around, the father trying to claim money from the mother in the interest of a child, and the person is nowhere to be found. So people find themselves in such dire circumstances and desperate circumstances. What do you do? Is there anything that can be done?
Well, I think in the circumstances that you're describing, we would have to say that these are consequences of karma over a long, long period of time. I think it's quite difficult to really talk about that because it's an absolutely no-win situation. It's very difficult for the people to get out of it. I think that when the situation is that bad, you really have to turn to God and take power that way, because you just need the strength to get on, to get through it, to keep going. But maybe if we look at a situation which is a little bit more like the kind of thing that people that will be listening to the program might be encountering, it may not be quite as desperate as what you experience in the court system. One thing to look at is if somebody is jealous of you, they will make your life hell. It may well happen that they are a perfectly good person doing perfectly normal things, but somebody is jealous of you and therefore they give you a hard time. So in a situation like that of jealousy, you just have to understand that if somebody's giving you a hard time, it's because they're jealous. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you. The person is not taking revenge or settling karma or something like that. It's simply that they want what you have. They don't like that you're successful. They will do anything to make your life miserable. And it will be fairly miserable. So there are certain mentalities and internal stances that you can adopt in the face of that. Once you understand there's not anything wrong with you, something wrong with them. So you cannot have doubt in yourself, because you have a right to be talented, you have a right to be successful. When other people see you doing well and they don't like it, sometimes there are certain things that you can do to do with being a little bit discreet about your success. It's a skill to be very generous towards people who are jealous, which will a little bit bring down the heat and fire of their jealousy. It won't make it go away, but you will not give them anything that they can hook onto to give them a reason to give you a hard time. You see, so this is a little method or skill that you can use. It sometimes happens with people who are especially gifted that they're misread and not at all understood. And it is assumed that they are doing something for this or that reason or whatever, which is totally not the case. So along with people being jealous of you, you can also deal with, or you have to also deal with people who misread you or misunderstand you. And they assume that you're being very arrogant or whatever, but actually you're not. And their reaction to you is that you are triggering their ego. So they're coming at you from an ego reaction, but they will be thinking it's your ego. So these are quite complicated, you can say, psychological issues that happen. Detachment is a very good thing. It's happening, but it's not happening to me. It's a good little phrase to use for yourself. You can say to yourself, okay, this is a great divine comedy, and this performance is going on, and somebody is doing very negative karma because they want to, and so you cannot really do anything about that. Manage yourself in the midst of all of that. Don't take it personally. Be easy about it, whatever it is that they want to do. Think of it as no skin off your nose. It's okay. Somebody wants to control you. This is another thing. They want to limit you. They want to make you small. They want to make you doubt yourself. There's many people like that. Okay, again, you're welcome to your karma. If you want to do that, if you want to mess up your karmic accounts, be my guest, you know. Because whatever you tell them, they're not going to listen. So you just have to keep yourself a little bit distant, get on with what your life is about without getting too preoccupied by it. And if somebody blocks you here, go there. And they block you there, go here. There are many ways, like in the human body, the system of veins and arteries. There's lots of ways to go. And it's like that in life. If you get a blockage here, go somewhere else. Get a blockage there, go somewhere else. Someone puts a big wall around you, go over the top. Be light, be easy, don't take it personally.
I'm amused when you say don't take it personally, because it's very personal. But in facing such a situation, or facing circumstances where life is against you, and you literally feel that your life is the equivalent of climbing the Himalaya mountain, what virtues or skills do you work on in order to survive? Not survive, thrive?
Thrive. Number one is consider it as a circumstance which is demanding that you start having a lot more faith in yourself than you have had hitherto. Because the purpose of this is to make you doubt yourself. And the sign is that you may be a little bit having self-doubt. It's a weakness. So you can understand that these circumstances are a conspiracy on the part of the great drama of life to get you to have faith in yourself and be solid in yourself and just not give it any mind. You know, that's really important. Another is you have to have endurance to get through this thing, because you can. Another is to know that sooner or later that will stop. There's a quite interesting phrase that the philosopher Schopenhauer had said, which he's very famous for, and which I think is very useful to apply. That if you want to be different, if you want to do anything to change things or whatever, expect that this will be met with, first of all, ridicule. The second stage of it is violent opposition. And the third stage, if you can get through those two, the third stage is acceptance. They say, yeah, we always knew that it should be like this, things like that. So you have to be able to pass through these stages. This is why you need endurance. That's why you need faith in yourself. And don't take it seriously that, oh, this person is doing that, therefore it means I'm not okay. It doesn't mean you're not okay. It means you have to get through it. So we have to interpret things correctly. If you interpret it wrong, it means your powers of discrimination are lacking. So this is also a situation which intensifies your powers of discrimination, and you learn what something really is. It may look like something and be something else. So you have to be able to evaluate it right, then you know what to do, and then you just move on.
This requires spending a fair amount of time with oneself, doesn't it?
All of this means you have to be with yourself, because you have to check yourself. You know, am I what these people are saying? No, I'm not. Why are they saying it? Whatever. Maybe they're jealous, maybe they don't understand, whatever. It's up to them. It's not your problem. Don't make it your problem if it isn't your problem. They want you to make it your problem. But you don't have to buy into that. You don't have to play that game. It's a game. You decide what game you're going to play, and you play by your standards.
You mentioned something earlier, and what that caused. Part of being in circumstances that one doesn't like means that there are individuals listening to you right now who feel like a victim. Their life situation may be the reason they feel this way, or their own sense of self-worth. What is your message for any man, woman or child who feels like a victim?
First thing is, come into your power. This is a game, and it's a competition. You need to be a bit competitive. Victims are traditionally non-competitive, and maybe they will choose to be victims because they just don't feel like getting going with their competitiveness. But no, you have to turn around, look at yourself and say, hey, stand up and fight. In the Gita, you have this situation where Arjuna is refusing to fight because he says, well, you can't go against your relatives because that's immoral. And then Krishna, or God, is saying to him, get up and fight. Don't be such an idiot. Don't be such a coward. And a lot of people, in the name of morality, will make themselves into victims. And in that way, morality is a very suspect thing, because it often says, especially to a woman in a conflict situation, that if you fight, it means you're a bad woman, so you have to make yourself a victim. That's better. Now you have to say, wait a minute, I don't buy that. Why I have to be a victim? No. I have my rights. I'm a human being like anybody else. And stand up for yourself. But you need to be skillful. Don't make yourself into a target, you see. But really we have to think a lot about this victim consciousness, because it's embedded in the society, which is patriarchal, and which conditions women to be victim in the name of goodness, and that's a wrong message.
So being a victim is a choice. Not many know that. Not when you're overwhelmed by the circumstances that you find yourself in.
Well, all of this means that you need to be a little smarter about life, because very often you will become a victim because of how you interpret certain situations, and you think you can't stand up for yourself, or you don't have any option, but you do. And there are many things that you can do, but it takes courage. Victims don't have much courage. It's a cop-out, because having courage means you have to really go inside and find your forces and face what's in front of you intelligently. And don't give up. Don't
give up on yourself.
Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up the struggle. Keep going. A lot of people, they just give up. It's too hard, or it's too difficult. No, don't give up. Just stay with it, stick with it, and get through it. This is called power.
Don't give up on yourself. That's actually a very powerful and very sweet message. I want to go back to something that you said earlier, where you were speaking about enlisting the help of the divine. Now, when you find yourself in dire circumstances, it is human nature to say, God help me. It's a very popular saying all across the globe. Please God, help me now. Okay? And earlier in another episode, you said, don't ask God for anything. What does one do in this situation where you're empty?
Have a look at how you got empty.
And that's painful.
Well,
It's painful to look at that and think the problem that you have right now is caused by yours truly.
it is. This is the harsh aspect of truth, that you got yourself into this situation and you turn to God as an absolute last resort. You do not have any proper relationship with God. You mess up your life royally, and then you want God to take you out of it. He will say, "What? You got yourself into this mess, you get yourself out of it." You know? If you want my help, be in relationship with me from the beginning through the middle to the end of your activities, and listen to my guidance, and you won't get into that situation.
Okay, so there's a difference between knocking on God's door when you are up to your eyeballs in dirt, and there's a difference between that and a relationship with Him that's not based on desperation.
Right.
So desperate love for God is not acknowledged by God as love.
Well, there are certain circumstances in which it is. If your turning to God is not just desperate but also sincere, and you're for real, and when people get in that situation and they do turn to God for real, their ego is smashed.
You speak about ego again.
Yeah. And God will help them. But if they gather their ego back again, God will back off. But if they're willing to set aside all that ego and listen to God and start forming a relationship and start going forward and follow the advice, they're okay. It's a long upward pilgrimage, but this is what happens a lot in the world of addiction recovery. A person will get to be an addict, which means they're also very egotistical, they're weak, and they have no control over their behavior, no control over their life. They end up on the streets. And if they get in such a bad situation that they do turn to God, then that is not just a one-off day. It has to be from now on, you live your life properly, and God will help. But you have to stick to it, because God doesn't suffer fools.
The emotions and pain that one is experiencing whilst you are in a very bad situation, does God help with that?
Well, when you turn to God, this is the one thing that you experience is peace. And all of this extreme anguish that you're in is taken away. This is a gift from God in return for your sincerity. But the condition is that now you have to live your life properly, because if you don't, then God will back off and you'll go back into your anguish. And He won't just come and do it again and again. God is very smart. You cannot take God for a fool. With people, you can take them for fools, okay, but God is not like that. And there's a problem in dysfunctional domestic violence, domestic relationships. The person who is violated doesn't set limits and boundaries. And so it goes into the same old cycle. God says, okay, one time I will get you out of this, but there are conditions. And if you break the conditions, you're on your own. So God can be quite demanding, but in a very realistic, reasonable way, which we may want to call tough love, which is very healthy. You know, from a psychological point of view, your relationship with God will make you psychologically very strong and very stable. And one of the things that I think is important is for us in the world today to work on a converging of the spiritual and the psychological. Otherwise they're separate, you know.
Oh,
but they need to come together.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that a lot of your spiritual problems are psychological problems.
Does that not mean you need to consult with a psychologist?
You may, you know. If we go further with this example of the addict who turns to God, he will surrender, but he has a lot of psychological problems, as well as he is spiritually depleted. So he will need to do his spiritual work and his psychological work. And the two need to dovetail. See, at the moment in the world today, the spiritual is in the domain of the religion, and psychological is in the domain of medicine. And one is science, one is religion. They're not really talking to each other. It's beginning, but from what I'm seeing in the world today, the condition of people, you need to do both. And if you do your psychological work without attending to your spiritual side, you will hit a wall, you know, there'll be a block. And if you do your spiritual work without taking care of your psychological problems, you will also be blocked in your progress. So we need to find a way where both of these things can work together.
Why are human beings so reluctant to do the work on themselves? Why are we so recalcitrant, lazy, inept, can't be bothered when it's our own lives? Why do we choose to lose ourselves in our cell phones, rather?
It's all about avoidance. It's all about, because we're spiritually weak, you need some determination to get across this ever-increasing barrier of your own personal weakness, your fear, your unwillingness, your feeling that I cannot do this. You know, if you will just make yourself do it, a lot of help comes. There is a saying, if you take one step of courage, God will give you 1,000 steps of help. But you have to take that one step. And the difficulty is people are getting weaker and weaker and weaker every day. So perhaps anyone who is strengthening themselves can be useful as an example, as an inspiration or whatever, that, you know, if I can do it, you can do it too, you know. Because we're all humans and we're all spiritually depleted, but we don't have to stay like that. We can fill ourselves, but we have to give time and energy for that.
I think one of the most beautiful things that you said today is don't give up on yourself. And unfortunately, so many have. So many have. So, Sister Denise, I think that we will say goodbye to you right now. Today was a very deep and meaningful message, because many of you watching right now find yourself in a situation where you do not like yourself or your life at all. Your relationships, your job, your finances, health, etc. But the beauty of spirituality is that you can draw on the help of the divine to make your life situation better at any time, provided that you do it with a sincere heart. That is also a message that I took from Sister Denise today, to look at God with sincerity in your heart and not superficially. So thank you for sharing that very sweet and powerful message. And thank you at home for joining us today. Take care and goodbye.